brighter somewhere. Got to be birds flying higher in a sky more blue.
Good morning. Welcome to Right Thinking with Steve Copeland. I'm your host, Steve Copeland, and thank you for tuning in. Let's have a great day.
Hi, everybody. I've had an absolutely wonderful week since last week on the show. I appreciate everybody that's given me such wonderful comments. The Reuben story that I told about my karate instructor that was in debt, and he came to me and asked me if I could help get him out of debt so he could buy that Mustang Mach 3 that he wanted, turned out to be a really good story. I've had a lot of people tell me that they appreciated that story. So I want to follow up on that today and just talk about what are some of the things that we can do to basically make our lives better. Well, first, let's define what make our lives better mean. Number one is stay out of trouble, get rid of a lot of stress. And, I'm probably not the only one that's listening right now that's been in a lot of difficulty and made mistakes and dug myself a hole and didn't know how to get out. Today, when I was listening to Jeff's show, I want to thank you, Jeff, for telling people that my materials were good. What I've got on my website, rightthink.org, is just a whole lot of materials. It's got my personal finance, small business ownership seminar. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to connect with people that are looking for better ways to move their lives forward in a positive way. One of my things that I always come back to is there's so many great motivational speakers out there that are showing you or telling you things that you need to do to move your life forward. And I like take that first step. Just get started. Don't hold yourself back. Well, a lot of people that I'm dealing with, including myself from time to time, are at a low spot where it's just really hard to get up and move forward. I used the term last week. My wife said motivation's good, but getting people to get off the chair and start moving forward, that's the hard part. Well, I got bad news for you. It is hard. Life's not easy. And there are many, many things that if you really want to get it right, you got to do. There's not any one thing that is going to make it all right for you. Well, there are a couple things. Giving it up to the Lord, that's the starting point, I'd tell you. Believing in yourself, that's critical. So what I want to do today is go right to some more tools that I have. And just so you know how serious this is, I bet you I've spent 20 hours in the last 4 days thinking about today's show. This is one of my favorite subjects to try to help people through. Today's show is on credit. Credit is one of the most difficult things to deal with in life that can have a tremendous adverse effect on you if you don't use your credit properly. This is one of those things. It's kind of confusing. I teach at an Achievable Dream High School and Achievable Dream Academy in Newport News, and I've got my financial literacy class there, and I've been working with them on credit for the last couple of weeks, and I finally caught their interest. I talked to the security guard the other day after class, and I said, today was a great day because I finally hit on something that the students wanted to ask me questions that they wanted to know more about. So I must be doing something right because I got 15-year-olds asking me questions finally. Well, here's why they're asking me questions. They want to succeed in life, and they're finally acknowledging that there's a subject that I'm talking about that they don't know a lot about. I've got kids that are asking me, if you want to buy something, after I've taught them for 2 days on the credit card trap, they'll still ask this question. Well, if I wanted to buy something, should I use a debit card or a credit card? Hey, I must not be that good a teacher if after teaching the subject about the credit card trap for 2 days, I still have students want to know should they use a credit card instead of a debit card. So let me start right there. The basic difference between a credit card and a debit card is that the debit card is using your own money. A credit card is using somebody else's money, basically a bank, and they're going to charge you for the use of their money. So let me freeze just for a second here on that. I said that they're going to charge you for the use of the money. What they charge you is interest. But that's not the real problem here that you got to watch out for. Your interest rate is determined when you have a credit card based on your credit score, based on your credit report. If you go to the website, rightthink.org, and go into the document called Right Thinking on Credit, I just put that up this weekend, and I've got a lot of information, but at the very end of it is a 6-page report by Equifax, one of the 3 main credit bureaus out there. Equifax and Experian and Trans Credit, or whatever it's called. I'll give you the exact name here in a second. Let me tell you what that is. TransUnion. Excuse me, TransUnion. I didn't mean to say your name wrong. Okay. I found on the internet a couple years ago a report that talks about credit, explains credit better than anything I've ever come across. In the Department of Correction, Virginia Department of Corrections course, Ready to Work, they cover a lot of stuff about credit. And they told me at headquarters a couple years ago that this article that I provided is way, way better than anything that they'd ever come across. I think it's the most complete article on credit that I've ever seen. It explains how your credit score works. It explains what you can do to improve your credit. It explains how you can destroy your credit. It talks about how you can rebuild it, not just improve it. And it really goes into a lot of information. So if you don't have time to listen to me today, I'll tell you right now, read that report on my website, and that will give you a strong foundation of what credit's about. Well, let me talk about credit for a minute here. Credit is one of those things that you are warned by everybody. Be careful. Don't get yourself in credit card debt. Well, if credit's that bad, then why do you use it in the first place? Well, most of the show today, once I get rolling here, is going to be talking about some of the circumstances in life where you have to use credit. And I'm going to come back to that because that's the theme for today, is if you're going to have to use credit, how to use it properly so that you can not get yourself strapped by it, burdened by it. So let me tell you something real quick here about credit that I think is very interesting. 3.5 years ago, I was teaching at Greensville Correctional in Virginia, Jarrett, Virginia. Had about 60 men in the class. And I started off with one of my favorite routines. When I get introduced, a lot of times they say very, very little about me. And they let me just, the counselors, they just let me introduce myself. And so I have this routine that I like to do, and I'm going to share it with you today. I tell them that my name is Steve, and that before we get started, I want to lay out some basic house rules, some ground rules. And I start off by saying that I want you to know that I have a passion, and that my passion is so important to me. I am so passionate about it, and I pretty much just milk it to death because I do it intentionally. I just play it out for a long time about my passion, like I'm doing with you right now. But basically what it is that I tell them that I am so serious about what I'm passionate about that I'm not a person that likes to argue or debate or fight. But I'll tell you right now that if there's anybody in this room that doesn't agree with what it is that I'm so passionate about, I'll take off my jacket right now and we'll go right down here on the mat right now and go at it. Well, imagine this. 60 men in a prison, and they don't know me from Adam, and I'm in their face like that challenging them. Well, luckily, what I do next has worked for me every time I've ever done it. I say, or we can settle this the gentlemanly way. And I put my hand out, and then I say, we can thumb wrestle. Well, at that point, they know I'm a little different. They know I'm a little weird to come in there and challenge them like that, and to challenge them to a thumb wrestling match. That breaks the ice pretty good for me, and then they're going to listen to me for a second because I'm different. What I'm passionate about is this. I believe that in this life, every single one of us needs to take full responsibility for ourselves. Now, there are some exceptions. Mental illness is a very, very difficult animal to deal with. I can't really speak to that. And there's a lot of special needs that people like that might not be able to take full responsibility for themselves. But my question is, if you're not going to take full responsibility for yourselves, who is going to take responsibility for you? Hey, let me tell you, the first time that I did this that day in Greensville, it couldn't have been any better. It was like I had a cue card for this guy in the back. He shouts out, "Your mother." Oh, I loved it. So the answer to the question is, if you're a person that's going through life not being responsible for yourself, who's going to take responsibility for you? And he said, your mother. And I said, that's absolutely right, Mommy. And I said, and what do you call someone whose mother is taking responsibility for them? Somebody yelled out, a child. And I said, exactly correct. And gentlemen, this is not a juvenile detention center here. Everybody's over 15 years old is what I said that day. And so we're all adults, and I want to give you some tools so that you will be better equipped to take full responsibility for your life and make your life better, more stable. By the way, being more stable is a critical term, trying to stabilize your life. I know that we're going through hardships and we're down sometimes, but not giving up hope and knowing that you can climb out of it and regain. One of the purposes of credit, by the way, is what I just said. If you're in a situation in your life where you're barely making ends meet, you're barely keeping your head above water, and your basic situation in life is that it's very much a hand-to-mouth struggle, you're fighting to pay all your bills on time and do it, etc., and you do not have savings, then what happens is if something happens that you have no control over. This is a follow-up to last week's show where thinking and planning ahead will make your life easier. This is a tool that we're going to talk about that requires you to think and plan ahead, get into your budget, and know how to do it. But now we're going to talk about the specific tool of credit. If you're in a situation where you're just cruising along, and let me give you an example. You got an okay job. You're living within your means. You're paying all your bills on time. You're supporting your family. But you're not able to save. You're not able to get ahead. One day you get in your car. You pull out of your driveway. You back out into the road. And then out of nowhere, a car